So thank you all for coming, and I appreciate each of you.
Awesome. Hi, everybody. We have a big crowd. I was added a little last minute, so we were like, maybe 2 people will show up. That's cool. We're good with that. So thank you all for being here. Just so you know, I want to introduce you to Taylor. She is part of my team. Where's? Yeah. She what?
She didn't get a taste, so she's like, I'm not gonna.
She can come sit. Oh my God. Yama, come up here. So if you guys know Yama, there might be a slight family resemblance. We'll just put it that way. So thank you so much. So I'm Sherry Sutton. I am your marketing mentor. I have the best job in the world where I get to help people who are the face of their brand kind of figure out how to do this whole marketing thing without selling out, without spending all their money, without spending all their time, because you have something really unique and you have to tell the world about it to get it out there. And there are so many people who, they just get stuck at that spot, right? Anybody feel stuck at like, how do I get people to see what I'm doing? We were just talking about this earlier, right? Like, oh my God, how do I get people to know who I am? How do I get people to hear who I am? And as I've been doing this, I've had this business for about 5 years. I've been a professional photographer for 15 and was in the corporate world doing marketing for a long time before that. I have realized over the last year or so that podcasting is one of the easiest ways to get consistent content. So I've really leaned in. I've opened up a studio in Plano. I have my own show. I actually have 2 shows, and we're recording today for one of my shows. I really, really believe that podcasting is, 1, it's very popular, but 2, it's also the best way to get consistent content, and I'm gonna walk you through exactly how that works. Sound good? So we're gonna go over 2 things today. We're gonna go over how to start your own podcast and how to be a guest on other people's podcasts. Sometimes people aren't ready to sort of jump into doing their own podcast, so it's great to be a guest for a while. As I was exploring this whole podcasting thing, I spent about a year being on other people's podcasts first. So how many people have been on a podcast? Yay, all right, most everybody. How many of you have your own podcast? Excellent, yeah. How many people want to have a podcast? Yeah, all right, good, well, you came to the right presentation. All right, so a little bit about me. I have been in marketing for 30 years. The doctors did a nice job. Thank you. I spent a long time in the corporate world working at startups, big chemical companies, big tech companies selling nerdy products to other nerdy people. I worked for a few presidential campaigns. I worked in online gaming. And I have this really interesting, diverse background that allows me to understand lots of different businesses, particularly business to business, and be able to say, hey, this is the type of activity that's gonna work, and this is the type of activity that won't, because I have bought all of them, I have done all of them. And so I know what works and what doesn't. Most importantly, I'm a mom. I am now a high school mom. My son just started high school, which is crazy, so fun. I have 2 adult stepkids as well, and an 8-year-old grandbaby who is amazing. Super cute. I have 2 podcasts, as I mentioned. One is called Your Marketing Mentor, and that's where I teach about marketing. And I record myself when I go do things like this for my podcast, because I'm lazy, and I want you to be lazy, and record everything you do, and then repurpose it. So we'll talk about that. And then I have a show called Heart of the Hustle as well, and I've done a TEDx and a whole bunch of other stuff. All right. So the popularity of podcasting is undeniable. Who listened to a podcast this morning on the way here? Come on, usually like 2/3 of the room. All right, thank you. She didn't. She's just putting her hand up for me.
I listened to a whole podcast on the way here.
Yeah. How many people have listened to a podcast in the last week? Yeah. So the growth of podcasts is undeniable, and here's just some statistics. There's 4.1 million podcasts worldwide. Now, keep in mind, a lot of those are not active. There's a lot of people who've started a podcast, done 3 episodes, and stopped. So the number that are active is much lower than that. But monthly listeners is about 572 million people listen to podcasts worldwide. That's a big audience. How many people, how do you want to get in front of 570 million people? I'm into that. They're estimating that the market value for this market is going to be $30 billion. So it is a huge, huge market. But if you look at some other types of media, it's just a little tiny piece, but it is going to grow and grow and grow and grow. Americans listen to 124 million Americans listen to podcasts each month. 31% of listeners tune in weekly, and the average listener enjoys 7 episodes per week. So it's something everybody, I listened to podcasts this morning, I'm curling my hair, right? And podcasts now are not just a podcast that you listen to. And I think we're gonna have a reckoning around what we call podcasts, because podcasts almost always need to have video. We're gonna talk about that more, but I just want to put that in your ear that I listen to all my podcasts on YouTube. I don't log into like podcasts on my phone or Spotify, sometimes Spotify maybe, and now you can do video on Spotify as well. But they're all, this is a YouTube video-based media. It's no longer just audio. So that's what I was just saying. 68% of podcasts now have video as part of them. I anticipate that number is going to go up and up because people want video as part of their experience. They don't want just audio. And even if they're just like, I don't know if you guys do this, where like if I'm like home alone and I've got like just, stuff I need to kind of bang out, right? Having my conversations with ChatGPT, I need some noise in the background. I'll actually put YouTube on my TV and have podcasts running. And then every once in a while when they do something fun, I hear them laughing or something, I'll look up and see what they're doing, right? And then I go back. It's like kind of another way of watching TV. YouTube is now the number one place where people find podcasts. So it's not Apple Podcasts, it's not anywhere else, it's on YouTube. And 60% of listeners say they first heard about a show on YouTube. Now, YouTube is owned by Google. So it's a great way to also increase your SEO and your findability on Google. And so having a podcast is incredibly important from that perspective. So video is a must. You can do an audio only. I have one client who is starting an audio only podcast. And part of the reason is some of her guests want to stay anonymous because of some licensing stuff. And you guys might know her, Denise Capruso. She's in here in the Girl Cave. So she's starting a podcast next month. Hopefully I'm not like spilling the beans. But it is called Charmingly Toxic. And she is going to go through reality TV shows and talk about narcissists, which is her specialty. And she's going to have other therapists on with her, and they're going to like make fun of all the narcissists on reality TV because she loves reality TV. But then they're also going to talk about like, hey, let's have a serious conversation. If you're in this situation, here's some of the things you should be thinking about and that type of stuff. So it's going to be called Charmingly Toxic. It should be coming out sometime this month. So we've been working on that together. But the other therapists who are going to be on our show don't want to, there's licensure stuff. So there is the occasional reason to not do video. It's very rare, right? All right, but it all starts with strategy. You have to have a really strong marketing strategy for your business. Just starting a podcast isn't going to grow your business if it's not done in a way that's very strategic so that you drive people down the funnel to buy from you. It's kind of like being on social media. Actually, it's exactly like being on social media. If all you do is go on social media and you're like, hey, here I am brushing my teeth, like that's not going to sell, clothes. right? It's not going to get people to come here, see you at the Girl Cave. It's not going to get people to hire you to do their podcast. You have to have content that is strategically placed in a way that drives people down the funnel. So you have to start with strategy, and you have to know that a podcast is going to make the most sense for you. Do people listen to podcasts or watch podcasts to get the kind of information about what you sell? Because sometimes we say, well, I have to do this. I have to be on TikTok. I'll pick on her because I let her meet with me for free. One of my good friends came into my office the other day, and she's starting an HR consulting business. And she's like, well, I'm gonna do TikTok, and she's telling me all the other things. I'm like, why are you doing TikTok? She's like, I don't know, aren't you supposed to do TikTok? And I was like, well, who's hiring you? She's like, small to medium businesses who need an HR person. I was like, so you're working with like the COO and the CEO? Yeah. I'm like, so is the CEO of a small to medium sized business, when he's looking for an HR person, is he doing that on TikTok, or she? Right? Because if she's on TikTok, she wants to see her, stuff about something else. Like, she's not looking for an HR person. So you can spend all day doing TikTok because you think you're supposed to, but if you really have a strong marketing strategy, you're going to realize that's not where they go to look for information. So having a really strong strategy is incredibly important, and knowing that a podcast makes sense for you. For most people, it does. Hi, how are you? We have an extra seat right over here. Okay, so you have 3 options if you want to get into the podcasting game. You can start your own podcast. You could be a guest on other people's podcasts, or you could do both. And I do both. And I think for everyone, both is a great option. But I'm going to talk about the first 2 options here. All right. So why should you start a podcast? So there's a lot of reasons. One is just increasing your brand awareness through guests. So this is a very strategic way to build your network without really having to do as much footwork, right? And this, if you are someone who would be a good host and you want to bring people onto your podcast to talk about things, it's a great way to get in front of their audience as well. So it depends on the format of your podcast. You can do interview podcasts, or you can do just you talking, or you can do a little bit of both. But it's a great way to get in front of a new audience by basically taking their eyeballs. Now, you have to be careful about who you do that with, because you don't want it to be a competitor, right? There's strategy around the types of guests, right, who have the same audience that you want, but maybe aren't competitive. The second reason is to drive authority and drive people down the sales funnel. So if you guys have ever seen the marketing funnel, right, it starts at the top with awareness, and there's lots of activities you need to do at the top, what's called the top of the funnel, where people just are starting to get to know you, right? Then you move into a phase called consideration. And consideration is when people are like, oh yeah, they're willing to give you a little more time, right? And then they get to a point of decision. It's a little like dating. Okay, stick with me. All right, so you're on, I don't know any of these things. You're on Tinder, right? Right, and you swipe and he swipes, right? Or whatever, I don't know, anyway. So that's awareness, right? You're going through and you're like, ooh, yeah. Those are awareness generation activities, right? You are just becoming aware of these people. So what's important at that phase? A good picture, right? That's the only marketing you need to do at that phase, is a good picture. Then you look at their profile, and now you're giving them a little more time. Now they have to have a really good written bio, right? So the written bio is really important. But you're not talking to each other yet. You're still stalking. And it's the same thing with business, right? You're still stalking, you're giving it a couple seconds. Okay, now you might move over to DMs, right? Then you start texting. Now you're sort of going into consideration. So as time goes on, you're giving up information, they're giving up information, and now you're spending a little more time getting to know each other, right? Then maybe you go on your first date. Now you've given an hour of your time to this person, right? You've told them your phone number. That is the consideration phase. That phase where you're now dating. And a podcast is great for that phase. Because if you're gonna sit down and watch my entire presentation that I'm doing today on my podcast, like, you think I have something to say that's gonna be valuable to you. And so it's a great way when you meet people to get them into your world and to teach them the value that you can offer without having to meet with them one-on-one, right? So through one podcast, I can do that with hundreds, thousands, maybe millions someday, people, right? Without having to meet with them one-on-one. Because there's so many people who are like, well, if I could just meet with someone. Like, they don't want to meet with you. They want to date you first before they're going to marry you, right? And so think about a podcast as something, as that. And it's a great call to action for people who aren't ready to buy. So the other one is lead collection. So you can do something like, hey, I'll give you an example. Hey, I'm today talking about podcasting. If you guys want my one-pager with a list of my favorite microphones, head over to my website and sign up, right? And now I've been able to generate them as a lead. They're on my email list, and I can follow up from there. So you can use a podcast as a way to do that. Building trust and connection with your audience, especially if it's video. People want to feel like they know you. And that doesn't have to just happen belly button to belly button. I believe you still need that, right? We need this, right? And thank you to Krista for building this for us. But video is a great way to get people to engage with you even more and feel like they know you even better. Oh, I think there was one more point. And it's a great single source for repurposing content. Okay, so this is where you take your phones out. So this is the number one reason to have a podcast, is content repurposing. So here's how it works. It's my one-to-many content model. So you create one podcast, right? And now you get a whole bunch of marketing items out of that one podcast. You put it on your YouTube channel, which is a huge for discoverability on Google. And people just look for things on YouTube now, right? I mean, YouTube is its own search engine. You put it on all the podcasting networks. So now you're on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio, all of those places. You write a blog based on what you talked about. So now you've got a blog post, also good for SEO searchability, because you have to keep your website updated pretty regularly for Google to like it. It was a very simple way of describing search engine optimization, but that's the basics. You get social media content. If any of you guys follow me on social media, for the last 6 months, this is all I do. I have 2 podcasts, I chop it into pieces, and that is 90% of my social media content. Press release, you could do a press release if you wanted to. That's how, if you go back on that first screen where I introduced myself and I'm like, seen on CBS, NBC, ABC, that's from a press release from my podcast. You can get onto a lot of those different places. And then email marketing, you can send an email to your base as well. Now, the other thing you can do is do what I'm doing right now, is I am also having the opportunity to hang out and talk to you guys and meet you face to face. But because I'm lazy and I believe in content repurposing, I'm recording it, and then this will be my podcast. So I also got this in addition to all these other marketing things that I'm going to get out of this presentation. Pretty cool, right? And that's why, as I watched entrepreneurs struggling with the this isn't my phone, but you get the idea, oh crap, I know I have to post something on social media. And I don't know what am I going to talk about? I didn't do my hair. And I have a zit on my nose, and right? We've all been there. I did it, right? Because when you're first, especially when you're first starting, you don't really have a really solid content strategy. You want to just see what's going to work. But it's exhausting. And this is a way that you can create one piece of content and cut it up, or have someone cut it up for you, ideally, and you're done. right? You've got all the marketing resources you need so you can go off and do something else. And I can tell you, having implemented this strategy now since the beginning, really the end of last year, it has changed my life from a marketing perspective. And I'm a marketing coach, so I do a lot of marketing, right? Any questions on that? Does that make sense? Does it resonate? Yeah. Okay, cool. All right. So reasons not to start a podcast. I'm up here like, yay, let's start a podcast, woo! But you have to be honest about whether or not you should start a podcast. So I'm gonna give you the reasons not to do it, because it's not gonna be right for everyone. The first one is it is time consuming, especially if you are learning how to do a lot of this stuff on your own. Now, I coach people how to do all of this stuff on their own. I also help people to just do this for them. But it is time consuming, especially at first, and especially if you want to DIY it. It's not the end of the world. It's absolutely a skill that anybody can learn. There are great AI tools, but it is a learning curve, for sure. It does require a long-term commitment. It's a little bit like social media. It's a lot like social media, where you can't just be like, hey, I'm gonna post once, and if it doesn't go viral, I'm out. TikTok didn't work for me because I posted something and only 2 people saw it. And you're like, what? You posted once? Like, have you done anything to create an audience? Have you connected with anyone on TikTok? Like, no. So it requires a long-term, a long game approach. But what I can tell you is, as somebody who I did lives for a long time, every single week, if not multiple times a week, and now I've converted that into a podcast. It's interesting because now I have this deep resource of lots of video content about me. And I have people who will find me, however, right, not in these environments, even in this environment, and they'll go to YouTube and they'll be like, ooh, and they binge watch my content. And then they call me and they're like, I'm ready to buy. I watched all your YouTube videos. I need what you have. Let's go. I'm like, oh, what was your name again? Okay, I'll send you a contract. So that's where this long game, you might not see the gains right away, but if you can get people over time, right, it's gonna build the more you're consistent. But you have to have a long-term approach to it. You can't be like, and I had somebody recently who was like, well, I was gonna do like 3 episodes and see how it goes. I'm like, nope, doesn't work that way. Don't bother. Don't bother, don't do it. There is some technical setup. So if you're a little nervous about that stuff, you can either rent a studio. I have one. You can have somebody like me. Taylor is our studio goddess. You can either rent a studio, so you don't have to worry about any of that. I can help you set it up at home, but there is a little technology. So if you're super technology freaked out, it might not be a reason to not do it, but you might want to rent a studio, right? But all of those things are things to consider. So net, I think that starting your own podcast is one of the best ways to consistently create content and consistently have content in your back pocket all the time. And it really can help you connect with other like-minded people. And if there are strategies where it might not help you connect with ideal clients just by posting it, but you could start an interview show where you have your ideal customer come on, right? And who cares if anybody watches it? You just got a half-hour conversation with somebody who would never have sat down with you unless you invited them to be on a podcast, right? That's where the strategy comes in. There's all different ways to kind of use a podcast, right? The other way that I've used a podcast in the past, I had a podcast called Bosses with Baggage. And it was designed it was an interview show, and I interviewed people who had gone through something major in their lives and used it as an opportunity to transform who they were and what they offer, right? So think about my grief coaches, right? Those types of recovery coaches. And I did that because I wanted to start getting comfortable sharing my story of how I've gone through recovery. And I also was a guest on a lot of people's podcasts where I started sharing that story. And it was a good place for me to practice my messaging around that. I didn't care if anybody saw it, but I just needed to be forced to turn on the camera and talk about it because I was prepping to do my TED Talk. And I wanted to practice for a while. And I wanted to see what that felt like. And I wanted to be around other people who had gone through something else so that I could get inspiration from them, so that I could find the courage to do my TED Talk. So sometimes a podcast can have different types of meanings. And so that's, again, back to where the strategy comes in. Any questions on starting a podcast? How are we on time? I haven't even been paying attention. Oh, we're good. Yeah, ask questions, because we're gonna move on to being a guest. So let's do some questions now on starting a podcast. This is a whole course in and of itself, and I'm gonna ask you guys afterwards to stay with me for a couple minutes where I can ask you questions on what you would like in a course if you wanted to start a podcast. So, but please ask questions.
So the investment in starting a podcast, how do you recoup that? Is it just like, I know it's a long lead, you expect that you get clients from it.
Yeah.
But are there other ways to monetize your podcast?
Yes, there's like YouTube monetization, and you can get sponsorships and all that stuff. It's going to take you a while to get there because the level of popularity you have to get people to give you money is high. So everybody's like, oh, I'm going to be on YouTube, and I'm going to become Mr. Beast, and I'm going to make millions of dollars. And it takes a while. It all goes back to the strategy. So let's say, back to that example of maybe you have a podcast where you bring people in and you interview them who are your potential clients. And you spent, you're spending $1,000 a month, right? To come into the studio, have me manage it, whatever, all that stuff. But if you do that every week, you get to have conversations with people who would never buy from you. You get one of those people to buy from you for $5,000, you made your money back. Did anybody see your podcast? Maybe. Do you care? Nope. Right? And so it all goes back to what was the initial strategy and how can you, in your mind, know if it's going to recoup. For a lot of people, just this is worth the cost. So if you hire a social media management agency, right, you're going to spend at least $2,000 a month. Where if you did a podcast, right, you could get somebody, I'll tell you, I do it for a lot less. We'll chop it up into pieces for you, probably for less, or you could do it for less, and have the social media content and just the peace of mind of knowing that and having the consistent level of visibility is worth it. So you can see it either as a revenue generator. Everything you do should generate revenue, but you also see it as a marketing cost and a branding cost. Does that make sense? But again, it all comes back to the strategy. Yeah.
Sherry, I think also, especially with what you do, it's I know one of the things you do in my podcast is that you use it specifically for social disability.
Yeah.
That you may not see, revenue this month. But if you're really targeting a specific market and you have some episodes for that market, we have a call to action in every single podcast, and actually a few times throughout the podcast, specifically just to get people on the list and nurture them and to then share with them about this and about thinking of it. So it's also a great strategy for something like that. And a lot less cost effective than running ads.
Yeah, yes.
Something to think about like that, wouldn't you agree?
Totally.
Yeah.
Yep. Yeah.
So I know that it takes time. Why don't you
do
that top 1%, 2%, 5%?
I don't even care but I can tell you, I don't care if I'm in the top 1 or 2%. I got more business than I can handle.
Okay.
So, not saying that if anybody wants to hire me. I can always receive more. I didn't mean it that way. But so it doesn't matter to me. That's not my strategy, right? And so, yes, I know, yes, it takes time if you want to be in the top 1 or 2%, but what does that give you? Right? What does that give you what you want ultimately in your business? Because you don't have to be in the top 1 or 2% to make lots of money and to make the difference you're meant to make. So go ahead, I'm sorry, I totally squashed your question before you even asked it.
Well, I was saying, what's a realistic time frame, let's just, whatever your goal is with podcasts, what's a realistic time frame to get to that goal, I guess is the ultimate question.
For me, the main way, and for most of my clients, the main way that we meet people and then we stay in touch with them on social media and drive them down the funnel by staying in their faces all the time. So for me, is it my podcast that's making the money, or is it the social media content that I'm creating from that podcast that's keeping me in front of all? How many of you guys have seen me on social media in the last week? Yeah. So, and it's all my podcast content. Now, how many of those people watched a full podcast? None. Taylor has to watch them all. She's required to watch them all. She filmed them all. But so a little bit of it too is if you're really just creating the podcast as an excuse to do social media because that's where you're meeting your people and that's how you connect with your people, then that's cool, right? Like Tamika's a LinkedIn expert, and she would probably be like, you have to be posting all the time on LinkedIn and value-added content. And you're like, well, crap, how do we do that all the time? You're like, start a podcast. Who cares if anybody listens to the podcast? As long as you've got the social media content and you're staying in front of people, then you're using Sales Navigator to reach out to them, right? So I think, staying consistent on social media, not with it by itself, it's got to be part of a bigger strategy. But that takes a couple months. It takes 6 months. Nobody knows who you are. It's going to take 6 months to a year for people to really understand who you are and trust you. Now, from a strategic perspective, you want to offer products that are going to fill your wallet sooner, right? Because it's too hard. So you want to, when you first start, sometimes you offer hey, I do this one little thing. You pick up whatever breadcrumbs you can and give yourself enough money, right? Because you're not going to fill a 40-person masterclass day one, right? So maybe you say, I'm going to do one-on-one coaching with the people that I meet at a low rate, but it's going to be enough to keep me going so that I can build the level of consistency and enough of an audience, and I'm going to use podcasting as a way to do that more easily, so that I have the social media content, which is where I really connect with people, and then I'll be able to fill my masterclass down the road. Did that make sense? Yeah, go ahead.
I have a question about, since you have multiple podcasts, what's your view on having podcasts that fit different markets? So for example, I do supply chain for example, so I have one for that.
Yeah.
I play Mahjong, so if you do one for that, but those are very different personas, and so
Yeah.
does that confuse the audiences?
Yeah.
Does that
As a personal brand strategist, I would say you are one person and people can't remember multiple things about you. That's why I wear pink and green everywhere I go. Because they can't absorb any more information. Now, if you want to have a fun, Mahjong is that what it's called? If you just want to have a Mahjong one just for fun, cool. But I would build it into what you're doing, right? And one of the things you want to do in your descriptions of yourself on social or anywhere else is have something fun, about you. I'm a yogi, right? And I always have sober AF, something like that. Is you could do Mahjong addict, right? Or something like that. So find a way to connect those two. And also don't start something that you're not going to be able to stay on top of. You know what I mean? Because I think a lot of us do hobby things and then we're and this happens early in our business too. I think a lot of us have a lot of time when we first start and we're like, I'm going to create all of these places to make content, and then you can't keep up with it, and then you've done a podcast for 3 things, right? And so so find a way to bring those things, together. And maybe there's a Mahjong, hey, we're going to have our Mahjong break now while we're talking about supply chain management, right? And chop that up into your social media content and have it be like a fun little like quirky thing you do in your podcast, you know? So it could be fun. Yeah, go ahead.
So I have 2 questions.
Yeah.
So the first one is, we cut our podcast up into several reels. Do you think that there's, like, what's the range for the number of reels per podcast? That's the first question, if there is a range. And then secondly, I read somewhere that when you're putting out reels, that they need to be not the exact same reel on all social, that you need to kind of, and so I
Yeah.
want to know your thoughts on that.
Yeah. So let's talk about that one first. Should you customize what you're doing on each platform? Yes. Is that best practice? Yes. Do you have time? No. Right? Is it best practice to like have clean hair and like have your nails done? My nails aren't done. Yeah. Can you do it? Often not. And so sometimes in marketing, especially if you're, you know, in the first couple years, you have to make the trade-off of, you know what, this isn't perfect. Should I frame this differently on LinkedIn? Probably than Facebook, because LinkedIn is a whole different vibe. I've been spending more time on LinkedIn. Tamika and I are working together now, and I've been spending more time on LinkedIn. And somebody made the most beautiful comment about me on LinkedIn the other day. And all these people are commenting back, and they're like these long, thoughtful responses about like what I said. And I was like, because I spend more time on Facebook where it's like, girl, that's awesome. Right? And I'm like, I don't even know how to like thoughtfully reply to this. I'm gonna have to have like a different headspace, right? So should I have tailored my content to these 2 different audiences? Probably. Do you have time? No. Full disclosure, I take my one reel and I post it in all the places and I use the same copy because I don't have time to do it otherwise. But I'm okay with that with my strategy. Yeah.
Also, most people aren't on every single
Yeah.
media, so you have different people on
Yeah.
every single thing. Like me, I don't have LinkedIn or I don't have Facebook. But right, yes. I have an account, I'm just not on.
And you, especially you going now, you just open up a page.
Right. So like, but I'm on TikTok, so I see her on Instagram and TikTok all the time. I don't see her on Facebook.
Yeah.
But well, not TikTok. I don't see you on.
No, I'm on.
You're on
Are you not following me on
I'm
TikTok?
sorry. I follow you on Instagram.
You're fired. No.
Like,
No, but yeah, and everybody's on different places. So the answer is it best practice? Yes. If you have a giant social media team and they're able to do it for you, is it perfectly fine, though not the greatest, to do it the same thing in all the places? Yes. And I think that's one of the decisions we have to make as a business owner, is we usually have to make decisions around what's the ideal and what's actually going to work, right? And I find, like, I see this a lot with operations. People will like, oh, I need a CRM. I'm like, well, how many clients do you have? Well, one. I'm like, why do you? So you're gonna hire a consultant and pay $2,000 to set up an entire CRM and you have one client. Why don't you keep track of them on a Post-it on your wall for free for 6 months until you got enough money? And so sometimes there's a little, you know what I mean? And so we have to, and that's where the strategy comes in, is that how important is this gonna be really? And then I forget the first part of your question and I'll come to you.
Yeah, and we, just to clarify, like, the reel's the same, but the text with it is different based on the platform, because we just stick it in ChatGPT and, you know.
Yeah.
We don't do that.
Yeah, chat's a great way to customize it.
And it
Yep,
tailors it
great.
to each platform based on our stuff. The first one was, is there a certain amount of reels that you cut up a podcast into to get the maximum exposure for that podcast?
The more the better. I mean, if I can get 100 reels out of this, awesome. I get to not have to do this again for a while. Not that I don't want to. and I love being here. But yeah, and it's something else to think about. If you're doing this process, especially if you're the only one talking, you want to think as you're creating content and bullets, you want it to be in short 90-minute segments. So if you're really being good, you can be like, I talk in 90-second increments or 30-second increments, even better, so that I know I'm getting bites. Because the more I do that, the more bites I can get and the more content I can get. So I have podcasts like, this is probably going to be an hour. Hopefully I could probably get at least 20 reels out of this. Well, I'll probably only do 5 because I've got other content. But yeah, I don't think there's a limit. But I've had other ones, like I've had guest podcasts where I'm like, oh my God, woof. Yeah.
Yeah, I was gonna ask about the lead generation aspect of it. I haven't done my own podcast, so just out of curiosity and ignorance. If you're doing some lead generation content that like maybe that is not for your audience, so you might get a lot of hits on that, is there a way to poll can you see who is subscribed to your podcast so that you can pull it? Can you communicate with them? Is there any way to see?
I mean, you can ask them, you can ask in the podcast, hey guys, give me feedback. You will know often by the episode views, right? What is getting the most views and what are people the most interested in? And then the next podcast, you're like, ooh, people like this one. And oh, this one was a dud. I have ones that are duds. They're brilliant and everyone's missing out. But nobody watches them. I didn't describe it right. The content wasn't very good. It happens. So then you just create more content like that. You can ask people to tell you, but yeah, you can have some, of men, women, region, but yeah, not as much. Anybody else? Yeah?
Something that works for your question, but I didn't ask before, is throwing out equation social media on your email list on what people are interested in.
Mm-hmm.
They really want to do. You throw
Yeah.
a quiz on a phone or something on there. Good to see you, Cheryl. What is your recommend? It's fine. Recorded site for yeah.
Went to post it?
Like,
Oh, the length? So the top business podcasts, really any of the top podcasts are 20 to 40 minutes. So the original, when I first learned podcasting years ago, was 18 minutes is your goal. So I have ones though that are 12 minutes. And I have ones like this one that's probably gonna be an hour. So you can vary it, but I think 20 minutes is the sweet spot, right? Podcast listeners, any feedback on that? Like, what do you guys like?
under 30 minutes.
Under 30 minutes. Because after that, I'm listening to one right now, and it's long. It's like an hour, and the content's really good, but it's taken me 3 days to get through it because I don't have more than 20 minutes. I mean, the only time I got 20 minutes is when I'm curling my hair, and I can't do anything else, right? So, yeah, anything more than that. Now, you might need it. Again, I hate to keep saying it, so it goes back to strategy, but sometimes you might need it. Yeah.
Wait, is there a podcast of you just talking, or does it have to be interview or having a conversation with somebody else?
Yeah, it can be either. So I have 2 podcasts. So I have, I can even show you guys. So if I go to YouTube, if you go to me, I have my Your Marketing Mentor podcast. That's what I'm recording right now. This is that Bosses with Baggage podcast I was telling you about earlier. And this is me either at events and recording myself at an event, because I like to repurpose that content, or, let's see if this is one.
Oh, what is that one? I was just looking at it. Go back.
What?
The custom chat GPT, I was just looking that up this morning.
Yeah, so the name of this is episode 20 of Your Marketing Mentor. But this is just me talking to the screen. Sometimes I'll show a screen showing you how to do stuff, but I have a whole AI series on this podcast. So this is just me talking. And then
Podcast name?
it's called Your Marketing Mentor.
Okay.
Yep.
Is that your channel?
My channel is Sherry Sutton, Your Marketing Mentor. So, yes. And then I have another podcast that I do that is called Heart of the Hustle. And I can talk to you about a little bit more about the goal of that. And Heart of the Hustle, somebody made a different...
It was really funny because I went to go look up to watch one of your podcasts. And I just,
Some other show just came out with the name, even though I'm trademarking it, but okay. And then this is an interview podcast that I do in my studio. So you can do either. You can also have a podcast where you do both. And that's okay too, right? I think you just have to be super clear with your audience what you're doing and why, right? The challenge with, and this is kind of 2.0, which we don't have time to go into today, but there's pros and cons of both types of formats. If it's just you get all the spotlight, you get all the leads, it's all you. If you're talking to someone else, it's a lot easier in the recording of it because you're just talking to somebody. And this whole show was designed to help my clients to just sit and talk to me because it's easier for them to create content. But this is designed to create content for them. But I can't get my message across as the host of this show. I don't try to, and that's not the point of it. The strategy behind this is Tamika's gonna be on my show. Hey, Tamika, come in, talk to me for an hour, and I'll get you a month of content out of it, and I'll give that to you after being on my show. But I can't promote myself in that show, really. One, because people pay to be on it, and that's not right for me to be like, hey, come pay to be on my show, and I'm gonna market myself the whole time. But it's real hard to get your message in there too, and so you're giving them the spotlight because they're the guest. So it kind of comes back to what's that strategy? Now I could see you doing one like a, style, like let me dress someone, right? That kind of thing. So you have a guest, but you're really the one who's giving the content. There's different strategies you can employ. Yeah. One more, and then we'll go back to the presentation. Yeah, go ahead.
Is there a sweet spot of timing when you want to launch? Like, should you, put yourself out there, announcing it for a certain amount of time before you actually start posting, to generate interest?
Yeah, I think people are too busy to generate interest in anything anymore. I love that idea. Back to the question about should you have different content for each social media platform? Yes, in an ideal world. Should you just launch the damn thing and not worry about it? Yes, just turn on the damn camera and go. Don't be like, oh, but I have to have an 8-week, whatever. Just turn it on. People will be like, okay, cool. Because people want immediate satisfaction. So you could do something like, hey, I'm coming out with this podcast if you want, right? Or here I am recording my first podcast and behind the scenes, get a little excitement, but just launch it when you're done. And that's one of the things that, again, there is an ideal way to do it. And if you've got a giant marketing team and lots of time and an audience, cool. But otherwise, just go. Just go. Because we hold ourselves back thinking we have to, I got to spend time putting together my 12-week marketing plan to make sure that I, just turn it, just post it.
And perfect as you go.
Yeah, perfect it as you go. And one of my mentors says this, and I have stolen it. If you're not embarrassed by the videos you did 3 years ago, you're not doing it right. So, and this is my part that I added to that bit of wisdom, which is the videos you're taking today, you are going to be embarrassed by in 3 years. And you know what? So what? You spent 3 years building an audience. You go back and look. I took a bunch of my videos down like a year ago because I was like,
Thank goodness Facebook does it for you now.
ooh. Well, just in groups. Just in groups. Yeah. The lives are gone. The old lives are gone now. But whatever. So just launch it.
Sherry, where did you get that thing at the bottom of your mic that said hard to help someone?
Oh, I'll send it to you. It's a company called PBS. It's PBS Impact, and they're like $40. They're so cool. Look at this. See, you see this little square? It goes on the bottom of your mic, and they're like $45, and it's a great way to brand. Because, like, so if you look over here, there's a poster on the wall with the logo, but then I have to have 3 camera angles, one on each guest and one in the middle. And that's okay, but yeah, this is a nice little way to brand. You see a lot of people doing that, like not Mel Gibson. Thank you, Mel Robbins. A lot of those, a lot of people are doing that now, and they're so inexpensive. So like when people come in and they rent the studio, they make their own versions of this and put it on there, and now all of a sudden the studio is, right, we can change the lights in the background to be a different color, and then you can change that, and you instantly have a branded studio, which is pretty cool. Yeah.
Impact PBS?
I think it's Impact PBS. Impact PBS?
That's the mic flag?
Yeah.
I was just gonna mention to your question earlier about, like, should you do separate different reels for the different platforms? I don't know what tool you use, but I know the podcast that I've been a guest on, they will send me the episode, and I use a tool called Wizard AI.
Yeah.
And it actually will create, you can tell it like what the parameters are, like maybe 90-second shorts, 1 minute, or like you'll put the parameters on it, and it will also like, I want to add words across it, put me here, put like you
Yeah.
can tell it how to do your videos.
Yep.
But it will, using AI, create all the content for you.
Yeah.
And it will post it to your social platforms too.
That's cool. And what's it called again?
Wizard AI.
Vizard?
Wizard. But it will do it differently depending on the platform. It will put the content.
Oh, that's cool.
Video.
That's cool. I haven't heard of that one yet.
The verbiage that it posts is different.
There's like a
depending on
little-
Whether it is Facebook or Instagram or LinkedIn, it's a different
Awesome.
style of how it moves.
And like, and when it comes to, that's awesome. Thank you for sharing that. Like AI tools are changing all the time. Like we couldn't do any of this like 9 months ago. Like, and it's crazy. So that's a great tool. And it's getting easier and easier. Maybe not great for people who do podcast management, but great for everybody, like it's awesome. It's awesome. Okay. All right. Let's talk about how to be on a podcast. But first, if you guys want to start a podcast, I would love to help you. I have a podcast strategy package. I'll hang out with you. We'll do a photo shoot. We'll make your template. I'll teach you all the things, or I'll give you time in my studio to learn. I'll write all your captions for you, all your descriptions for you. I'll teach you which sites you need to be on, all that stuff. So happy to help you with that. And we also do podcast management as well. If you're like, forget it, I just want to show up and say and talk, you can show up and talk, and we'll do the rest. Okay, so if you don't want to start a podcast, anybody overwhelmed with the idea of starting a podcast now? Okay, anybody like, yes, I'm doing it? All right, we got a couple people who are like, yes, I'm doing it. Yeah.
I think it's not important if you're wanting to build not just a luxury, right? You really want to brand outside.
Yeah.
You have to get out. If you're trying to be a national brand, you want to do a full enterprise. These are the tools that will give those extensions. And that's how I look at it. It may not be right now, but you will need to if you're trying to build your brand nationally and locally.
Yeah. And because it takes time to build that audience, it's better to start now, and then you at least have it, right? You have it there. You've got the platform, and there's no better time to start than today. Whatever that is, whether it's a podcast or something else, just do it. All right.
One thing to think about, though,
Yeah.
at least what we're finding, is that it's it's not, building dreams, you build it real fast.
No.
If you're not going to use it in the ways that you're talking about.
Yeah.
And like lots of different ways over and over, don't spend the time doing it.
100%.
No one's gonna find you.
Yeah.
Even if you just put it up on YouTube, you
No.
still have to market it.
Yep.
You put it up on YouTube, you still have to share
Yep.
it, stuff like that.
Yeah, and thank you for that. It still has to be a part of your overall marketing strategy. So it's back to that like, oh, I posted once on TikTok and nobody, I'm not making $1 million. Like it doesn't, I'm sorry, it doesn't work like that. I know. It's a bummer.
That's why that.
It's a bummer.
Put up with the 7 ways is like really, really important to.
Yep.
You gotta do it.
Yeah.
You gotta do it all.
Yeah, 100%.
You know.
Yeah, thank you for that. Okay, so if you have decided, forget it, or yes, and I want to be a guest on a podcast, I recommend doing that too. It's a great way to connect with like-minded individuals, right? You can be on a podcast. I have a client she is the vice president for the International Dyslexia Association. And part of her personal brand strategy was to get onto podcasts that talk about neurodivergence because she is dyslexic. So she was on my Heart of the Hustle podcast, and that gave her a sample podcast where we then went and pitched her to a bunch of other podcasts, and we've got like 4 different podcasts that she's gonna be on. We can then use those as a speaker reel to then get her onto greater audiences and so forth. So it's a great way to connect with like-minded people, get in front of a new audience. It's a great way to build your personal brand. And depending on the show, sometimes they will give you resources and sometimes you can use it for social media content. You cannot rely on that with most podcasts, right? Because even when they say they're going to, they generally don't share the stuff with you. Not because they don't want to, because there are a lot of people they're just busy, right? They're not doing that as a business. The other good thing is it gets you practice on camera. So remember I was telling you earlier about how I was on all these recovery podcasts when I was prepping for my TED Talk. Actually, I was prepping to prep for my TED Talk. And I just wanted to start hearing myself talking about it because I had never talked about it. And I wanted to get over the shame of talking about it in an environment where I knew probably not that many people were gonna see it, versus being on the TED stage. And so it's a great way to practice that messaging and practice your speaking. If you want to be a professional speaker and you don't have the credentials to get onto a stage, it's a great way to have some practice. And then you can say, hey, here's the 6 podcasts I've been on. You can see a little bit about my personality. And I did this the exact same thing, and I've done it with many of my clients. And hopefully content you can use for your platforms, it is very spotty. It's very, very spotty. So you cannot rely on them giving you the whole episode and you being able to use it. Sounds like you've had some good luck with it. That's awesome, but it's a little hit or miss in my experience. Okay, so who should be on a podcast is just somebody who's naturally easy to talk to. The great thing about being on someone else's podcast is it is an interview podcast, back to different types of podcasts. So hopefully if they're a good interviewer, they're gonna ask you good questions, right? And you're kind of just showing up having a conversation. So if you're just somebody who sort of enjoys just having natural conversations with people, being on a podcast is a great way to do it. I'd check out the host first and make sure it's somebody you connect with. I've been on a few when I did that recovery podcast tour. I had one guy, man, we just were not. And full disclosure, I probably shouldn't say this, I didn't listen to his podcast ahead of time because I was like, whatever, I just want to be on some podcasts. And I would have known, you know what I mean? But I did it, it was fine. But, so it's good if you can, especially if you can listen to the shows and be like, oh, I want to talk to this person, right? I think we could have a good conversation. Why? Oh, I went the wrong way. Okay. So I want to give you a couple resources if you want to be on podcasts. I'm going to give you 3 different resources of how you can find those opportunities. So the first one is a website called Quoted, Quoted. Every small business owner should be on Quoted. It is where journalists go to find people to put in their articles. So for many years, it used to be Haro, Help a Reporter Out, if anybody remembers that one. That one went away, and Quoted is sort of the new one. So you sign up and you say, I'm an expert on CPR. Tease you, Yama, right? I'm an expert on heart health and CPR. And then you say, send me emails every day when a journalist is looking for someone to talk about heart health or I don't know, whatever, right? And it will send you emails. Hey, someone from this magazine's looking for a quote on this. Someone from this magazine's looking for a quote on this. What I am seeing more and more on Quoted is it's not just magazines and newspapers and online blogs, but it's podcasts. I'm looking for a podcast guest about this. I'm looking for a podcast guest about this. So getting that, there might be a charge to it, if so it's minimal, and I don't even remember what it is. Though I'm not great with money, so maybe don't listen to me. It's sub $20 a month, I would imagine, if anything, I forget. But it's a really, really great place. And so what we do with our clients, I monitor this every day, and I'll send it out to my clients and be like, hey, look, hey, check this out, check this out, check this out, and then they can follow up. So the second one is Facebook. And I'm gonna give you one Facebook group. This is the OG of the Facebook groups where you can find opportunities to be a guest. But it is very saturated now. There are a gazillion other ones, and I couldn't possibly have enough slides to show you all the other ones. So I put this one in. This is the OG. You can see there's 65,000 people in this group. Client, right? So all my clients are on it, right? So you can go in, get a great picture of yourself with some good color, put it in there, hashtag, be a guest, and tell them a little bit about what you do. And then you can also go through and look and see who's looking for guests and see if you can apply. I put my Bosses with Baggage podcast on this group. This is a couple years ago now, looking for guests. I got 60 applications in like a couple hours. So yeah, so it's great. There's a lot, but it's a great place if you're just like, I just want to open it up and do open roll call. Honestly, you guys are networkers, or else you wouldn't be here today here in the Girl Cave. The best place to start is in your own backyard, right? Who do you know who might be a good guest on your podcast, or who has a podcast that you can be a guest on, rather? This is my favorite new toy. It's called Pod Match, and you can go on there. It's pretty extensive. There are some other ones that are a little like, hey, I want to be on your podcast. Cool. What time can you be here? Awesome, right? Like this is like, you upload multiple pictures, you put all these links in there, right? And I love that because you know that the people who are picking you are like getting some real information about who you are. And then it's got a cool thing. You can actually like do it through me or just on your own. But like I have been helping my clients like get on podcasts. I was telling you earlier. And so my one client, like we got her 4 podcast interviews real quick on this. Now, by the time, you set up the initial meeting or you set up the interview, and she's got an interview later this afternoon, and then it probably won't come out for a month. And so it takes a minute, right? It doesn't, like we recorded 2 podcasts yesterday. I think one's coming out next week, but one's not coming out until October. So it takes a minute often to have them come out. But this is a great service. This is a paid site, but it's not super expensive. So I wanted to kind of show you a little bit about my studio and my show. I'm going to actually show you a different video than that one because I have a new one. Just so you guys get a sense of what a professional podcasting studio looks like. Has anybody been in like a professional, cool podcasting studio? Let's see.
To put yourself out there
Yeah.
on camera.
Yep.
It can be scary,
I'm right.
confusing, and let's be honest.
I'm right, like really close to the intersection of Dallas North Tollway and 121.
Hey there, I'm Sherry Sutton, of the Heart of the Hustle studio and your marketing mentor. I created this space because I know how overwhelming it can feel to put yourself out there on camera. It can be scary, confusing, and let's be honest, there's a whole lot of noise out there about what you should be doing. So I built this space. This is not only beautiful and professional, but also welcoming, supportive, and created just for you. Whether you're a total beginner or a seasoned pro, you'll feel supported from the moment you walk in. Our studio concierge runs all the tech for you, so all you have to do is show up and shine. You'll have access to Shure microphones, digital SLR cameras, gorgeous lighting.
That's all the fancy
and
stuff.
teleprompter if you want it. The studio was intentionally designed to be simple and clean, so you and your brand are the star. You can change the background lighting to your brand colors, use a custom mic cover with your logo, add your branding to our wall, or use a green screen to drop in any background you want in post-production. You can rent the studio anywhere from 1 to 6 hours, depending on how much content you want to knock out. And afterwards, we'll upload your files to Google Drive within 48 hours. And if you need some help with the editing, we can help you there too. We're conveniently located in Plano, Texas, just 5 minutes from the Dallas North Tollway and 121. There's a nearby bathroom for outfit changes or touch-ups. We've got coffee, water, and vending machines in case you need a little pick-me-up. And here's the thing, this isn't just a studio. As your marketing mentor, I'm here to help you with the bigger picture. Your overall content strategy, your brand messaging, and making sure everything you create is actually moving the needle in your business. No more wasted time, no more guessing games. You'll always know you're creating the right content for your goals, and you'll always have someone to bounce ideas off of, because that's my superpower. So, if you're ready to create content that feels aligned, authentic, and totally you, Heart of the Hustle Studio is here to help you make it happen. Book your session today, and I can't wait to welcome you into the studio and cheer you on every step of the way.
And I also have a show where if you just want to test being on a podcast and you want some resources that are super easy, all done for you, I have a Heart of the Hustle show that you can be on, and I will, ladies, so you can be on the show. I was showing this to you earlier. You come in, I interview you, and then I give you a month's worth of content from that. So it is a paid thing. So most podcasts that you're guest on are free, but because you're paying for all the resources. You're not paying to be on the show. You're paying for us to do all the resources for you. So we'd love to have you guys on the show too. So what questions do you have? I know we've got 5-ish minutes, but you guys are welcome to stay and hang out, and if that's okay with Krista.